Commander Jake Morrison stood at the main window of Space Station New Horizon, watching the distant stars twinkle in the dark void. The station was humanity's farthest outpost, floating in the cold space of the Kepler system. Jake had been stationed here for 3 years, and he knew every bolt and panel of the massive structure that housed over 2,000 people. The morning started like any other. Jake walked through the corridors checking on his crew. Lisa Barnes was at her tactical station, running system checks on the station's defense grid. She looked up as Jake approached, her blonde hair catching the artificial light. "All systems green, Commander," Lisa said with a small smile. "Nothing unusual on the sensors today." Jake nodded and moved to the communications center where Ryan Clark sat surrounded by screens and blinking lights. Ryan was young but skilled, able to handle transmissions from dozens of human colonies scattered across nearby star systems. His fingers moved quickly over his keyboard as he coordinated supply shipments and personnel transfers. "Any word from Earth Command?" Jake asked as Ryan shook his head. "Just the usual reports. Colony ships are on schedule, mining operations are running smooth, and the new settlement on Kepler 442b is requesting more medical supplies." The last stop was the engineering section where Kate Sullivan worked on the station's power systems. Kate was tough and smart, with grease-stained coveralls and tools hanging from her belt. She could fix anything on the station, and Jake trusted her completely. "How are the reactors running, Kate?" Jake asked. "Like a dream, Commander. All 3 cores are operating at optimal levels. We could power this station for another 50 years without any problems," Kate replied, wiping her hands on a cloth. Jake felt satisfied with his crew's reports. New Horizon was running perfectly, protecting the outer edge of human space. The station served as an early warning system and a refueling stop for ships traveling to the frontier colonies. Life was peaceful out here, far from the busy politics and crowded cities of Earth. That peace ended at exactly 10:47 station time. The first sign of trouble came from Ryan's communications array. Every screen in his section started flashing red. Warnings, alarms began blaring throughout the station as sensors detected massive energy signatures appearing in space. "Commander to the bridge." Ryan's voice echoed through the corridors over the intercom system. Jake ran to the main command center, where his crew was already gathering. Lisa's tactical displays showed impossible readings. Huge objects were materializing in space around the station, appearing out of nowhere like ghosts becoming solid. "What am I looking at?" Jake demanded. "Ships, sir." "Massive ones. They just appeared from hyperspace," Lisa replied, her voice tight with worry. "I count 12 vessels, each one at least 3 times bigger than our largest battleship." Through the main viewer, Jake could see them clearly now. The ships were beautiful and terrifying at the same time. They looked like they were made of crystal and metal, with smooth curves that seemed to bend light around them. Strange symbols glowed along their hulls in colors that hurt to look at directly. "Are they responding to our hails?" Jake asked Ryan. "Negative, Commander. They're not answering any of our communication attempts, but they are scanning us. I can detect their sensor beams running over the station." Kate joined them on the bridge, still carrying her tools. "Commander, those ships are giving off energy readings I've never seen before. Their power output is off the charts. Each one of those vessels could probably destroy our station with a single shot." The alien ships held their position around New Horizon like predators circling prey. They made no aggressive moves, but their presence was threatening enough. Jake had never seen technology like this. The ships moved without any visible engines, and their hulls seemed to shimmer with some kind of energy field. Then the message came. All screens throughout the station suddenly switched to the same image. A figure appeared that was clearly not human. It was tall and thin, with pale blue skin that seemed to glow from within. Its head was larger than a human's, with no hair and eyes that were completely black. When it spoke, its voice was cold and mechanical, like a computer trying to sound alive. "I am Supreme Archon Vexillar of the Zephyrian Collective," the creature said. "You will listen carefully, as I will not repeat this message." Jake felt his blood turn cold. This was humanity's first contact with alien life, and it was not going well. Your species calls itself human, the alien continued. We have observed you for many of your years. You have spread beyond your homeworld like a disease, claiming territory that does not belong to you. This ends now. The alien's black eyes seemed to stare directly through the screen at Jake. You have 72 of your standard hours to evacuate all human settlements beyond your solar system. Every human colony, every space station, every ship must return to your homeworld. If any human presence remains outside your original territory after this time limit, we will destroy it completely. Lisa grabbed Jake's arm. Commander, sensors are detecting movement from one of their ships. On the tactical display, they watched as one of the smaller alien vessels moved toward a human cargo ship that was approaching the station. The cargo ship was unmanned, carrying supplies from the inner colonies. Jake wanted to warn them away, but the alien ship moved too fast. A beam of pure energy lanced out from the crystal ship. The cargo vessel simply vanished in a flash of light and heat. No explosion, no debris field. One moment it was there, and the next it was gone as if it had never existed. That was a demonstration, the alien said, as if reading Jake's thoughts. Your primitive vessels cannot withstand our weapons. Your shields and armor are meaningless against our technology. We have conquered 47 species across this galaxy, each one more advanced than your own. The alien's image leaned forward. Slightly. Do not mistake this for a negotiation. We are not interested in your surrender or your service. We simply want you gone from territories we have claimed for ourselves. Your chaotic nature and violent tendencies make you unfit to exist alongside civilized species. Jake stepped forward, toward the main screen. This is Commander Morrison of New Horizons Station. We are prepared to discuss this situation. Perhaps we can reach some kind of agreement. The alien's expression did not change. There is nothing to discuss, human. Your species lacks the wisdom to understand your place in this galaxy. You spread conflict wherever you go. You cannot be trusted or controlled. Therefore, you will be contained to your home system or eliminated. We have families on those colonies, Jake said, his voice rising. Children, elderly people, entire communities. That can't just pack up and leave in 3 days. That is not our concern, the alien replied. We have given you fair warning, which is more mercy than we showed the other species. Use this time wisely. The transmission ended, leaving Jake and his crew staring at blank screens. The alien ships remained in position around the station, silent and waiting. Ryan broke the silence first. Commander, I'm receiving emergency transmissions from colonies throughout human space. Everyone got the same message. Kate was checking her engineering displays. Those ships aren't just sitting there doing nothing. They're scanning everything. Our defenses, our technology, even the molecular structure of the station's hull. Lisa shook her head in disbelief. 72 hours to evacuate 63 colonies and 14 space stations. It's impossible, even if we had every ship in the human fleet working non-stop. Jake stared out at the alien vessels surrounding his station. Humanity had always wondered if they were alone in the universe. Now they had their answer, and it was worse than anyone had imagined. The aliens weren't interested in peaceful contact or shared knowledge. They saw humans as nothing more than pests to be removed, but Jake Morrison had not spent 15 years in space to give up at the first sign of trouble. He turned to his crew with determination in his eyes. Ryan, get me a priority channel to Earth Command. Lisa, I want a full analysis of those alien ships. Kate, start running diagnostics on every system we have. If we're going to face impossible odds, I want to know exactly what we're working with. The 3 officers nodded and moved to their stations. Outside the window, the crystal ships continued their silent vigil, waiting for humanity's response to an ultimatum that seemed impossible to refuse. Dr. Helen Martinez sat in her laboratory on Earth, watching the alien broadcast for the 15th time. The recording played on multiple screens around her workspace, each one frozen on a different frame of the Zephyrian leader. Helen was Earth's top expert on alien life, though until today that had been purely theoretical work. Her assistant, Dr. Kevin Palmer, walked into the lab carrying a cup of coffee and a worried expression. Kevin was young but brilliant, with a gift for seeing patterns that others missed. He had been working with Helen for 3 years, studying the possibility of contact with alien species. Dr. Martinez, I've run the analysis on their ship configurations, Kevin said, setting down his coffee. The energy readings are incredible, but there's something strange about their construction. Helen paused the recording and turned to face Kevin. What did you find? Kevin pulled up a holographic display showing the alien vessels. Look at the hull structure. Those ships are beautiful, but they're built for energy manipulation, not physical impacts. The crystal formations along their sides are perfect for channeling energy weapons, but they would shatter under kinetic force. Helen studied the display carefully. She had noticed something similar while examining the recordings. You're right. Their technology is impressive, but it follows a very specific pattern. They rely entirely on energy-based systems. Meanwhile, in the secure basement levels of the Global Defense Command, Admiral Peter Grant was having a very different conversation. The room was deep underground, protected by layers of metal and concrete that could survive a nuclear strike. Only a handful of people knew this place existed. President Amanda Cross sat at the head of a long table, her face pale but determined. Around the table were the most powerful leaders on Earth, but today they all looked small and frightened. The alien ultimatum had shaken everyone except Admiral Grant, who seemed strangely calm. Admiral, our conventional forces can't possibly stand against those ships, said General Robert Kim, head of the Earth Defense Forces. We've seen what their weapons can do. They destroyed that cargo ship like it was made of paper. Admiral Grant stood up and walked to a wall display. That's where you're wrong, General. We're not as helpless as they think we are. The President leaned forward. What do you mean, Admiral? Grant touched a control panel, and the wall display came alive with classified files and technical specifications. Ladies and gentlemen, let me introduce you to Project Nightfall. The room fell silent as classified documents filled the screen. Ship designs, weapon systems, and strategic plans that none of them had ever seen before. The technology was clearly human, but far more advanced than anything in the public military. For 20 years we've been preparing for exactly this scenario, Grant explained. Not because we knew aliens existed, but because we studied our own history. Every time a technologically superior force encountered a supposedly inferior one, the outcome wasn't always what people expected. Dr. Martinez would have been fascinated by the conversation happening beneath her laboratory, but she was focused on her own discovery. Working with Kevin, she had identified crucial weaknesses in the alien technology that everyone else had missed. Kevin, look at this energy pattern, Helen said, pointing to her analysis screen. Their shields pulse in a regular rhythm. It's like a heartbeat, with moments where the energy field is weaker. Kevin nodded excitedly. And their weapons charge in the same pattern. They're not random energy discharges. They follow a mathematical sequence that we could predict. Helen felt a surge of hope for the first time since the alien message. These aren't gods, Kevin. They're just another species with their own limitations. They've probably never faced an enemy that fights differently than they do. Back in the command center, Admiral Grant was explaining Project Nightfall to the shocked government leaders. The project had been created by Captain Sam Rodriguez, a military strategist who believed that Earth's greatest weakness could become its greatest strength. Captain Rodriguez studied every major conflict in human history, Grant said. From David and Goliath to the American Revolution to World War II, the same pattern appeared over and over. The side with better technology usually won unless the other side fought in a completely unexpected way. President Cross looked at the technical specifications on the screen. These ships look nothing like our standard military vessels. That's the point, Madam President. The Nightfall fleet was designed to be invisible to conventional detection. They look like civilian cargo ships, research vessels, even space debris. But inside, they carry weapons and systems that the aliens won't see coming. At that moment, Captain Sam Rodriguez was briefing his team in a hidden facility on the moon. The facility had been built inside an old mining complex, disguised as abandoned equipment. Sam's team included some of the best soldiers and pilots in human space. Lieutenant Amy Foster was checking her equipment when Sam called the meeting to order. Amy had trained for this mission her entire career, though she never thought it would actually happen. Next to her sat Sergeant Danny Brooks, a tough veteran who specialized in close combat situations. At the back of the room, weapons specialist Nicole Adams was studying technical readouts of alien ship designs. "People, this is what we've trained for," Sam said, addressing his team. "The aliens think we're primitives who will panic and run. They're about to learn that humans don't give up that easily." Sam activated a holographic display showing the alien fleet positions around human space. "Our mission is simple in concept but difficult in execution. We need to board one of their ships and gather intelligence while they think we're just running." Scared, Amy raised her hand. "Captain, how do we get close to ships that can destroy anything we have?" Sam smiled grimly. "By using their arrogance against them. They're not watching for threats they don't believe exist. Our ships will approach using civilian identification codes. As far as they know, we're just refugees fleeing their ultimatum." Danny Brooks spoke up from the back. "And once we're aboard their ship, we learn everything we can about their technology, their tactics, and most importantly, their weaknesses," Sam replied. "Dr. Martinez has already identified some promising vulnerabilities, but we need hard data from inside one of their vessels." Nicole Adams was studying the mission parameters on her tablet. "Captain, this is essentially a suicide mission. Even if we gather the intelligence, how do we get it back to Earth?" Sam's expression grew serious. "Nicole, every mission in Project Nightfall is potentially a suicide mission. But that's what makes us dangerous. The aliens have conquered 47 species, but I guarantee none of those species were willing to sacrifice everything to win. Back on Earth, Dr. Martinez was making another crucial discovery. Working through the night with Kevin, she had decoded more of the alien communication protocols. What she found changed everything. "Kevin, look at this transmission pattern," Helen sighed, her voice filled with excitement. "The aliens aren't just individuals communicating with each other. They're linked somehow, sharing thoughts and decisions through their technology." Kevin studied the data streaming across their screens. "It's like a hive mind, but technological rather than biological. That's why they move in perfect coordination." Helen nodded, understanding the implications. "But it's also a weakness. If they're all connected through their technology, they might not be able to adapt quickly to individual tactics. They're thinking as a collective, not as independent minds." The discovery was transmitted immediately to Admiral Grant, who smiled. For the first time since the crisis began, Project Nightfall was based on the assumption that humans could outthink any enemy by using individual creativity and unpredictable tactics. If the aliens really did think as a collective, they were about to face something they had never encountered before. In space around human colonies, the alien ships maintained their positions, scanning and waiting. The Zephyrians were confident that humanity would surrender before the deadline. They had given the same ultimatum to 47 other species, and not one had chosen to fight against impossible odds. Supreme Archon Vexthalar reviewed the human response from his flagship. So far, the humans were behaving exactly as predicted. Ships were fleeing the outer colonies, heading back toward Earth. Communications were full of panic and confusion. Everything was proceeding according to plan. What Vexthalar didn't realize was that hidden among the fleeing civilian ships were vessels that looked ordinary but carried humanity's most dangerous secret. Project Nightfall was about to begin, and the Zephyrians were about to learn that sometimes the prey can bite back harder than the predator expects. The countdown continued. But now humanity had a plan that went far beyond simple evacuation. The next 60 hours would determine whether humans were just another conquered species or something entirely different. Captain Sam Rodriguez floated in zero gravity inside what looked like a broken cargo ship drifting through space. The vessel appeared damaged and abandoned, its hull scarred with fake blast marks and debris trailing behind it. But inside the hidden compartments, Sam and his team were very much alive and ready for action. Lieutenant Amy Foster checked her suit's life support systems one more time. The specialized armor she wore was designed to be invisible to alien sensors using technology that had taken years to develop. Next to her, Sergeant Danny Brooks was loading weapons that fired solid metal projectiles instead of energy beams. "Target acquired," whispered Nicole Adams from her position at the sensor station. Through the fake cargo containers, she could see one of the smaller Zephyrian scout ships approaching their position. The alien vessel was sleek and beautiful, its crystal hull glowing with internal energy. Sam activated his helmet radio on a frequency the aliens couldn't detect. "Remember, we're supposed to be refugees. Scared civilians running from the ultimatum. Let them think we're helpless." The alien ship moved closer, its sensors scanning the human vessel. Sam could feel the energy beams passing through their ship, checking for weapons and life signs. The Nightfall technology worked perfectly, hiding their true nature behind false readings that made them appear to be exactly what they claimed. "They're taking the bait," Amy reported quietly. "The alien ship is moving into boarding position." Through the viewports, they could see mechanical arms extending from the crystal ship. The aliens were going to dock with their vessel, probably to search for survivors or valuable technology. It was exactly what Sam had hoped would happen. Meanwhile, on Earth, Dr. Helen Martinez was working with a much larger team in her expanded laboratory. The government had given her unlimited resources and the best scientists on the planet. Dr. Kevin Palmer was coordinating with weapons experts, while engineer Maya Johnson studied the alien technology from every angle possible. The energy patterns are becoming clearer, Maya said, looking up from her analysis station. "Their shields operate on rotating frequencies, but they all follow the same mathematical sequence. If we can predict the rotation, we can time our attacks for maximum effect." Dr. Martinez nodded as she studied the alien ship designs on her main screen. "Maya, what about physical impacts? We've established that their hulls are designed for energy manipulation, but how would they handle old-fashioned kinetic weapons?" Maya pulled up structural analysis data that made everyone in the room stop and stare. "Doctor, their ships would be incredibly vulnerable to solid projectiles. Those crystal formations that make them so beautiful also make them brittle. A simple metal rod traveling at high speed could punch right through their hulls." The implications were staggering. For all their advanced technology, the aliens had never encountered enemies who used physical weapons. Their entire defensive strategy was built around energy-based combat. Back in space, Sam's team was about to put theory into practice. The alien ship had docked successfully, and they could hear movement in the connecting airlock. The Zephyrians were coming aboard to investigate the seemingly helpless human vessel. "Positions," Sam whispered to his team. They had rehearsed this scenario hundreds of times in training simulations. Amy moved to the main corridor where she would appear to be an injured refugee. Danny positioned himself behind a false wall panel where he could observe everything. Nicole stayed at the sensor station, ready to record whatever they discovered about alien technology. The airlock opened with a soft hiss, and 3 Zephyrian soldiers floated into the human ship. They were tall and graceful, moving through zero gravity like they were born in space. Their armor was made of the same crystal material as their ships, glowing with internal energy fields. The aliens communicated without speaking, their thoughts apparently shared through their technological connection. Sam watched from his hiding place as they examined the ship with sensors built into their armor. Their movements were perfectly coordinated. Like dancers performing a rehearsed routine, Amy played her part perfectly, moaning softly and appearing to be unconscious from lack of oxygen. One of the aliens approached her, scanning her with a device that projected holographic displays. The alien's black eyes showed no emotion as it studied the readings. What the aliens didn't realize was that Their own scanning devices were being scanned in return. Hidden sensors throughout the ship were recording every energy signature, every communication frequency, and every technological detail they could detect. Then something unexpected happened. One of the aliens stopped moving and tilted its head, as if listening to something the humans couldn't hear. The creature's eyes suddenly focused directly on Sam's hiding place, and it began moving in his direction. "They know we're here," Sam whispered into his radio. "Execute emergency protocol." The carefully planned mission became a desperate fight for survival. Danny burst from his hiding place, firing kinetic weapons that the aliens had never encountered before. The metal projectiles tore through their energy shields like they didn't exist, striking the crystal armor with devastating effect. The first alien went down immediately, its armor cracking and sparking as systems failed. The second alien tried to return fire with an energy weapon, but Amy was already moving. Using the ship's corridors and gravity fields to outmaneuver the surprised creature, Nicole grabbed as much data as she could from the alien scanning devices while the battle raged around her. The information she was collecting would be crucial for humanity's survival, but only if they could get it back to Earth. The third alien proved more dangerous than the others. It adapted quickly to the human tactics, using its own ship systems to flood the human vessel with energy discharges. Sam felt the temperature rising as alien weapons overloaded their life support systems. "We need to get off this ship," Danny called out as he reloaded his weapon. "The whole thing is going to cook us alive," but Sam had a better idea. Instead of fleeing, he led his team toward the alien ship through the docking connection. If they were going to die anyway, they might as well take as much alien technology with them as possible. The interior of the Zephyrian vessel was unlike anything humans had ever seen. The walls seemed to be alive, pulsing with energy and responding to the crew's thoughts. Control surfaces appeared and disappeared as needed, and the entire ship felt more like a living organism than a machine. Amy secured the docking area while Sam and Danny moved deeper into the alien ship. Nicole began downloading everything she could access from the ship's computer systems, though the technology was so different from human designs that she could barely understand what she was seeing. "Sam, you need to see this," Nicole called from what appeared to be the ship's main control center on the alien displays. They could see tactical information about the entire Zephyrian fleet. Ship positions, weapon capabilities, and most importantly, communication protocols that connected every alien vessel in the fleet. Nicole was recording everything, but what she found was disturbing. "These aren't just military ships," Nicole said, studying the data streams. "They're carrying families, civilians, entire populations. The Zephyrians aren't just conquerors. They're refugees." Sam stared at the information flowing across the alien screens. If Nicole was right, then the situation was far more complicated than anyone on Earth realized. The Zephyrians weren't just arrogant bullies. They were desperate survivors looking for a new home. But that didn't change the fact that they were threatening human colonies and demanding complete surrender. Sam made the hard decision that would define everything that followed. "Download everything and prepare for extraction," he ordered. Whatever their reasons, they started this fight. Now they're going to learn what happens when you threaten humanity. The team worked quickly to gather as much intelligence as possible before the aliens could respond to the intrusion. They had minutes at most before reinforcements arrived, but the data they were collecting would give Earth's defenders the information they needed to level the playing field. As they prepared to escape, alarms began sounding throughout the alien ship. The Zephyrians had realized that their supposedly helpless prisoners were actually highly trained soldiers on an intelligence mission. The element of surprise was gone, but the damage was already done. Sam's team had penetrated alien defenses, survived close combat with superior technology, and gathered crucial intelligence about enemy capabilities and weaknesses. Most importantly, they had proven that the Zephyrians could be beaten by humans who were willing to fight. Smart instead of fair, the information they carried back to Earth would change everything about humanity's response to the alien ultimatum. The countdown continued, but now the defenders had hope and a plan that went far beyond simple survival. Admiral Peter Grant stood in the main command center of Earth Defense Headquarters, watching dozens of screens that showed the positions of every human ship in space. The deadline was only 18 hours away, and the Zephyrian fleet remained in position around human colonies, waiting for surrender or preparing for extermination. The intelligence gathered by Captain Rodriguez's team had changed everything. Dr. Martinez and her expanded research group had worked for 36 hours straight, analyzing alien technology and developing countermeasures. What they discovered gave humanity its first real hope since the crisis began. General Lisa Campbell entered the command center carrying a tablet full of tactical data. Lisa was one of Earth's most experienced military strategists, and she had been coordinating the secret deployment of Nightfall assets throughout human space. Behind her walked Colonel Tony Williams, who commanded the Special Weapons Division. "Admiral, all Nightfall vessels are in position," Lisa reported. "We have 47 ships disguised as civilian transports, cargo haulers, and research vessels. The aliens are still tracking them as refugee traffic." Admiral Grant nodded as he studied the deployment map. Each Nightfall ship looked completely ordinary from the outside, but they carried weapons and defensive systems that had never been tested in real combat. The crews were volunteers who knew they probably wouldn't survive the coming battle. "What about the new kinetic weapons?" Grant asked Colonel Williams. Tony smiled grimly as he activated a holographic display. Dr. Martinez was right about the alien vulnerabilities. "We've retrofitted every ship with railguns that fire solid metal projectiles at incredible speeds. Their energy shields won't even slow these rounds down." The weapons were simple in concept but devastating in practice. Instead of trying to match alien energy technology, human engineers had gone back to basics. Metal rods accelerated to nearly light speed would punch through crystal hulls like bullets through glass. Captain Maria Santos was aboard the battlecruiser Freedom's Edge, one of the largest ships in the Nightfall fleet. Maria had been chosen to lead the first wave of attacks because she understood that this battle would be unlike anything in human history. Her crew of 200 volunteers included some of Earth's best pilots and gunners. "Captain, we're receiving final tactical updates from Earth Command," reported her communications officer, Lieutenant Paul Martinez. "The alien fleet positions haven't changed. They still think we're running scared." Maria walked to the main view screen where she could see one of the massive Zephyrian command ships floating in space like a crystal cathedral. The alien vessel was beautiful and terrible, its hull glowing with energy patterns that seemed almost alive. In a few hours, she would try to destroy it. "Status report from all departments," Maria ordered. Her tactical officer, Commander Janet Lee, read from her displays. "All kinetic weapons are loaded and ready. Railgun systems are operating at full power. Electronic warfare suites are online and prepared to disrupt alien communications." The engineering chief, Lieutenant Commander Steve Rogers, spoke next. "All ship systems are running perfectly. We've got full power to engines and weapons. The new armor plating should protect us from at least a few hits from their energy weapons." Maria felt the weight of responsibility settling on her shoulders. Freedom's Edge would lead humanity's counterattack against an enemy that had conquered 47 other civilizations. The odds were impossible, but giving up was not an option. Meanwhile, Captain Ben Tucker was making final preparations aboard the destroyer Lightning Strike. Ben's ship was smaller and faster than Freedom's Edge, designed for hit-and-run attacks that would confuse and distract the alien fleet. His crew of 80 included many pilots who had trained specifically for this type of impossible mission. "Ben, we're getting reports from other Nightfall ships," called his first officer, Lieutenant Commander Rachel Green. "Everyone is ready and waiting for the attack signal." Ben studied the tactical displays that showed alien ship positions throughout human space. The Zephyrians had spread their fleet across multiple star systems, confident that no human force could threaten them. They were about to learn how wrong they were. "Rachel, what's the status of our electronic warfare systems?" Ben asked. Rachel checked her instruments carefully. "All systems are go? We've got programs designed to disrupt their collective consciousness network. If Dr. Martinez is right about how they communicate, we should be able to cause some serious confusion. The electronic warfare capabilities were based on intelligence gathered during the infiltration mission. Human computer experts had studied alien communication protocols and developed viruses specifically designed to attack Zephyrian technology. It was humanity's first attempt at cyber warfare against an alien species on Earth. The final preparations were reaching completion. President Amanda Cross stood in the main communication center, preparing to deliver humanity's response to the alien ultimatum. The message would be broadcast across the galaxy, letting every species know that humans refuse to surrender. Admiral Grant joined the president in the communication center, along with Dr. Martinez and the other leaders who had planned humanity's desperate gamble. Outside the building, millions of people watched on screens and waited to learn their fate. "Madam President, all our forces are in position," Admiral Grant reported. "Nightfall ships are ready to begin the attack. Our ground-based defenses are online. Earth's hidden weapon systems are charged and waiting." Dr. Martinez stepped forward with her final analysis. The alien technology follows predictable patterns. Their shields rotate on mathematical sequences we've mapped completely. Their weapons charge in cycles we can anticipate. Most importantly, their collective consciousness makes them think and react as a group, not as individuals. President Cross took a deep breath and faced the cameras that would carry her message to the Zephyrian fleet. She thought about the billions of humans living throughout space, about the children on distant colonies, about the future of her species. The communication channel opened, connecting Earth directly to every alien ship in human space. Supreme Archon Vexillar appeared on screens throughout the Zephyrian fleet, expecting to receive humanity's surrender with only minutes left before the deadline. Instead, he saw a middle-aged woman with gray hair and determined eyes standing in what was clearly a military command center. Behind her, Admiral Grant stood at attention in his formal uniform, and Dr. Martinez held a tablet containing humanity's complete analysis of alien weaknesses. "I am President Amanda Cross of the United Earth Government," she began, her voice steady and clear. "You have threatened our colonies, our families, and our future. You have demanded that we abandon our homes and retreat to a single world. You have told us that resistance is futile and that surrender is our only option." Supreme Archon Vexillar listened with growing confusion. This was not the message of defeat he had expected to receive. The human leader showed no signs of fear or desperation. Instead, she seemed almost calm, as if she held some secret knowledge. "You have conquered 47 species across this galaxy," President Cross continued. "You believe that your technology makes you superior to all other forms of life. You think that your collective consciousness gives you advantages that individual minds cannot match." Admiral Grant stepped forward beside the president, his expression grim but confident. "You have made one critical error in your calculations. You have assumed that humanity will react like every other species you have encountered. You believe that when faced with superior technology, we will simply give up." Dr. Martinez raised her tablet, displaying data that made the alien computers throughout the Zephyrian fleet suddenly alert with warning signals. The humans had learned far more about alien technology than anyone had realized possible. "President." Cross looked directly into the camera, knowing that her words were being heard by every alien in the fleet. What she said next would either save humanity or doom them to extinction, but it would also send a message that would echo across the galaxy for generations. "You want to know humanity's response to your ultimatum?" she asked, her voice growing stronger. "Our answer is simple." Admiral Grant stepped closer to the camera, his weathered face showing the determination of a species that had never learned to surrender when their survival was at stake. "Is that all?" he said quietly. The two words carried the weight of human history, every impossible victory, every time the underdog had surprised the favorite. It was humanity's declaration that the fight was just beginning, and that the Zephyrians were about to face something they had never encountered before. In space around human colonies, the countdown reached 0, and the galaxy was about to witness what happened when an apparently primitive species decided to bite back. Supreme Archon Vexillar stared at the human transmission in complete disbelief. In 3,000 years of conquest, no species had ever responded to a Zephyrian ultimatum with such casual defiance. The human leader's simple question echoed through the collective consciousness of the entire alien fleet. "Impossible," Vexillar whispered to his tactical officers. "They must be bluffing. No primitive species would dare challenge the collective after seeing our demonstration of power." But even as he spoke, warning signals began flashing throughout Zephyrian ships across human space. Energy signatures that had been classified as fleeing civilian vessels were suddenly changing, revealing weapons and defensive systems that shouldn't exist. The humans had been lying about everything. Captain Maria Santos felt her heart pounding as Freedom's Edge dropped its disguise and revealed its true nature. The fake cargo containers fell away to expose massive railgun batteries, and the ship's hull reconfigured to show armor plating that gleamed like silver in the starlight. "All ships, this is Freedom's Edge," Maria broadcast to the Nightfall fleet. "Execute Operation Underdog. Show these aliens what happens when they threaten humanity." Across human space, 47 ships that had appeared to be helpless refugees suddenly transformed into warships unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. The Zephyrians had never encountered kinetic weapons, electronic warfare, or tactical thinking based on individual initiative rather than collective planning. The first rail gunshots came from lightning strike as Captain Ben Tucker targeted the nearest Zephyrian vessel. The metal projectiles traveled at incredible speed, crossing the distance between ships in seconds. When they hit the crystal hull of the alien vessel, the results were devastating. The Zephyrian ship's beautiful crystalline structure shattered like glass hit by a hammer. The energy fields that made the aliens so formidable against other species provided no protection against solid matter traveling at nearly light speed. Atmosphere vented from the damaged hull as the alien crew scrambled to respond to an attack they had never imagined possible. "Direct hit," reported Lieutenant Commander Rachel Green from Lightning Strike's tactical station. "Their shields didn't even slow down our projectiles?" "The alien ship is venting atmosphere and showing massive structural damage." Ben smiled grimly as he watched the alien vessel spinning out of control. "Target the next ship. Keep firing until they either surrender or retreat." But the Zephyrians were not going to surrender easily. Supreme Archon Vexillar ordered his fleet to respond with overwhelming force, deploying energy weapons that could destroy planets. The alien ships began firing beams of pure energy that lit up space like artificial stars. Freedom's Edge shook as an energy blast struck its armored hull. Captain Santos felt the deck vibrate beneath her feet, but the ship's new defensive systems held. Human engineers had designed the armor specifically to absorb and disperse energy attacks, turning the aliens' greatest strength into a manageable threat. "Damage report," Santos called to her engineering team. "Minor hull damage on decks 7 and 8, reported Lieutenant Commander Steve Rogers. "All primary systems are still online. The armor is working exactly as designed." Meanwhile, the electronic warfare systems were creating chaos throughout the Zephyrian fleet. Nicole Adams, now working from a command ship in Earth orbit, launched cyber attacks that disrupted the aliens' collective consciousness network. For the first time in their history, individual Zephyrian ships began losing contact with the fleet coordination system. "The virus programs are working," Nicole reported to Admiral Grant. "We're breaking their ability to think and act as a unified force. Individual alien ships are starting to make independent decisions, and they're not very good at it." The disruption of Zephyrian communications had effects that even Dr. Martinez hadn't predicted. Alien ships began firing on each other by mistake, their coordination completely broken. Others simply stopped moving, their crews paralyzed by the loss of collective guidance. Fighter pilot Alex Morgan led squadrons of small, human ships in attacks that the aliens found psychologically disturbing. Alex's pilots used kamikaze tactics, ramming their ships into alien vessels at high speed while the crews escaped in the final seconds. The Zephyrians had never faced enemies willing to sacrifice their own equipment for tactical advantage. This is insane, one Zephyrian tactical officer transmitted to his fleet. These humans are destroying their own ships just to damage ours. How do we fight an enemy that doesn't value their own technology? The battle was spreading across multiple star systems as Nightfall ships engaged alien vessels throughout human space. Each encounter followed the same pattern. The Zephyrians expected energy-based combat with predictable tactics, but humans used kinetic weapons, electronic warfare, and individual creativity that the collective consciousness couldn't anticipate. Supreme. Archon Vexillar realized that his fleet was in serious trouble. Ships that had conquered dozens of civilizations were being destroyed by vessels that looked like primitive cargo haulers. The humans were fighting in ways that violated every principle of civilized warfare. All ships, deploy planet-killer weapons, Vexillar ordered desperately. If we cannot defeat them conventionally, we will destroy their worlds and force them to surrender. But Earth had one final surprise waiting. As the Zephyrian fleet moved toward human colonies with their most powerful weapons, hidden defensive systems throughout human space suddenly came online. Dr. Patricia Lane activated the secret network from her command center on Luna. Defensive grid is now active, Patricia reported to Admiral Grant. All hidden weapon platforms are online and targeting alien ships. The moon itself revealed its true nature as massive sections of the surface open to expose weapon batteries that had been hidden for decades. What the aliens had assumed was a dead rock was actually a fortress armed with humanity's most advanced technology. Chief Engineer Chris Bailey coordinated the lunar defenses from deep inside the moon's core. All systems are go. We have target locks on every alien ship in Earth orbit, firing in 3, 2, 1. Beams of energy more powerful than anything the Zephyrians possessed lanced out from hidden positions throughout the solar system. Asteroids that had been hollowed out and converted to weapons platforms opened fire. Space stations that appeared to be simple research facilities revealed hidden arsenals. The aliens found themselves trapped in a carefully planned ambush that had been decades in the making. Every piece of human infrastructure in their home system was actually a weapon designed specifically to counter Zephyrian technology. Supreme. Archon Vexillar watched in horror as his most powerful ships were destroyed by enemies he had dismissed as primitives. The planet-killer weapons that should have ended the war were targeted and eliminated before they could fire. His fleet was being systematically destroyed by a species that wasn't supposed to have any advanced technology. Impossible, he transmitted to the surviving ships in his fleet. How could a primitive species prepare such defenses? How did they know our weaknesses before we even arrived? Commander Jake Morrison, still aboard New Horizons Station, provided the answer in a broadcast to the entire Zephyrian fleet. You made the same mistake that every bully makes. You assumed that being strong meant you were smart. You never considered that the species you were threatening might be smarter than you are. The battle reached its climax when Vexillar himself led a direct assault on Earth with his remaining ships. President Cross stood in the command center, watching as the alien flagship approached through a storm of defensive fire. Sir, the alien command ship is breaking through our outer defenses, Admiral Grant reported. Vexillar is trying to reach Earth directly. President Cross activated the final defensive system that even Admiral Grant didn't know existed. Then it's time to show him what humans do when we're really angry. Earth's surface opened in 1,000 places as weapon systems that had been hidden for generations emerged into daylight. The planet itself had been converted into a fortress, with every major city concealing defenses that made the lunar weapons look primitive. Supreme. Archon Vexillar's flagship shuddered under impacts from weapons that shouldn't exist. His crystal hull, designed to channel energy and project power, cracked and splintered under kinetic bombardment from a species that fought like cornered animals. In his final transmission before his ship was destroyed, Vexillar sent a warning to other species across the galaxy: beware the humans. They are not what they appear to be. The species that seems weakest may be the most dangerous of all. The surviving Zephyrian ships fled human space, carrying news of their defeat to the rest of the galaxy. The species that had conquered 47 civilizations had been beaten by primitives who refused to surrender and fought with weapons and tactics no one had expected. Admiral Grant's final log entry was broadcast to every human colony and ship in space. Today we learned that being underestimated can be the greatest advantage of all. When someone asks if our defenses are sufficient, when they wonder if we're strong enough to protect our freedom, we have a simple answer. Is that all? The phrase became humanity's motto as they took their place among the galaxy's major powers.